This episode of the Gooner Ramble is sponsored by the new sporting betting app called Bookie. That's Bookee. Sign up using the promo code podcast, deposit and bet £10 in multiple bets for a free £10 bet. Please bet responsibly.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Gooner Ramble podcast. I'm your host Giles, and joining me tonight are regular Dave. You can catch him on Twitter at GoonerDave66. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Giles. How are you, mates?
Not too bad at all. And we have not got one but two guests tonight. We've got the return of Nick. You can catch him on Twitter at Stroller Nick. Good evening, Nick. How are you, sir?
Evening, Giles. Yeah, could never been better. Thanks.
Thank you. And also coming from the other side of the pond, we have got Doug returning. You can catch him on Twitter at DFresh10. Good evening, Doug.
Good evening. Thanks for having me back.
Have you shoveled enough snow to last your lifetime now?
Oh, it's been brutal. Syracuse is absolutely swimming in snow. It's unreal. Nothing but shovel in the last 48 hours. We got a big snowstorm, and at least I had school off yesterday, so a little break from the kids.
Yeah. I hope it goes better. Right, so without further ado, we'll start off with Nick. Nick, you were there at the press conference today on behalf of Haters Network. You went to every press briefing today, apparently. So give us the breakdown, the lowdown of what was said by Mr. Wenger.
Yeah, Arsene was in one of his more relaxed, sort of smiley moods. Still obviously flushed from that success against Everton. He's got a fairly fit squad, although it sounds like Czech probably won't play. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. He said he's going to give him another test tomorrow, but he will not risk playing him unless he's 100% fit. When this was put to Pochettino, Arsene has his press conference early in the morning before training. Pochettino has his after training, so it's quite possible to do the North London double and cover them both. When that was put to Pochettino that we might be weaker with a backup goalkeeper, an inexperienced backup goalkeeper, I think it was put to him. He said, well, look, I don't care. I don't look at the names on the shirts. I just look at teams. And for me, they're both international, experienced, top-class goalkeepers, and it really doesn't matter who plays. And I think he's probably quite right on that too. And I think both managers seem very calm, very relaxed. Both got strong squads to pick from, and we're neither giving too much away on their selection. It looks like Monreal will play for us. If you remember, he came off sick in that match against Everton, but he seems fully fit. And just a question of how he sort of carves up the midfield with Jack fit again and Ramsey having scored his hat-trick and no one else sort of there to fill in the sort of holding role. So I don't know. It's a tough one to call. I'm just going to actually almost defeat the point of this podcast and just say, after the last podcast I did with you, which was before the Everton match and after the Chelsea win, I did the same press conference run, and after having been at Arsene, I went up to Tottenham to see Pochettino, and waiting to interview the Tottenham manager was Thierry Henry there for Sky. He was just sitting there playing on his phone, and it was just after we had that chat about does Wenger do tactics. Yeah. And I sort of reintroduced myself to him and told this, that, and the other. Told him about the podcast, and we'd been talking about the new signings, Aubameyang, and whether Wenger's tactics were like. And what I said, what does he think? What does he know? And he said, well, because this is the bane of my life. He said, before every match, I have to sit there for an hour on Sky talking about what I think is going to happen in the game. He said, unless you're in the dressing room, unless you're there training with the teams, you've genuinely got no idea. He said, I don't know what's happening at Arsenal, even though I just didn't finish playing from that long ago. I'm just speculating. And we're just making it all up until you actually see the game go out there on the pitch. We really don't know what's going to happen. And I hate the build-up to these North London derbies. They just make me nervous, and I'll be glad when it's all over. We have to win this match. And
then Thierry said, I love the Gooner Ramble. How's Giles?
Yeah, he did actually, yeah. He said, what glasses is he wearing this weekend?
Good stuff. Quickly, Nick, Wenger did he was asked about diving.
Yes.
And that seemed to be quite a send us into a frenzy, his response. I mean, what was that about?
It was classic sort of Arsenal stuff where he was asked, what he thought about Pochettino's comments from last week's press conference, where he pretty much condoned diving and said, "Look, it's a skill for players to deceive not only their opponents but also referees." He sort of said, putting words into mouth slightly, that it's a skill that maybe in South America and other countries we've more appreciated than over here. But what's all the fuss about? You guys overanalyze things. And Wenger said, "Well, look, I think Pochettino was slightly misinterpreted there. He wasn't saying that he wants his players to cheat and to dive. He was just saying that he wants his players to be clever." And then I think he realised what he was getting into talking about there, and he just sort of saw an open goal, and he said, "It's funny because people always used to make a fuss about foreign players here, but it's amazing that now that the English players seem to be the masters of diving." And which is what Pochettino went on to talk about too, saying that it was Michael Owen, if you remember, dived for that
over his leg
penalty in the 2002 World Cup, a match I was very lucky enough actually to be reporting at that night.
Apparently he dived over Pochettino's leg.
Yes, he did. He dived over Pochettino's leg. Yeah, sorry, did I not say that? Yeah, and he said, Pochettino said today, because that really opened my eyes. That was the first time I realised that English players are cheats too, in so many words. And
do you reckon he's got a point about how it's all part of the game in South America and apparently in other parts of Europe as well? It's seen as, so it's a tactic, it's a trick. It's used to con the referee, and if you don't use such dark arts, you're kind of frowned upon. Do you see what he was saying?
Yeah, I don't like it, but it's not a dark art or tactic. It's very much alive and direct and present here, isn't it? I mean, Arsenal players do it. You saw that Tottenham match against Liverpool. That was 3 dives, really, wasn't it? I mean, the worst were Ali and Harry Kane, blatant dives to me. And, they did, Wenger was talking about it here, players, he said, the phrase he used was something like, they push the rules to the limit. And they'll always leave that trailing leg just to try and catch a player. But if they feel any contact, then they go down. And Arsene said, for me, that's not a penalty, but that's what players do. And then it's up to the referee to make up the decision. And I think players now almost accept amongst themselves that if the referee gives a penalty, then that's the decision. That's it. It's not cheating. If you've dived and the referee's fallen for it, well, then you've done a good thing. Personally, I hate it unless, of course, it goes in Arsenal's favour.
Dave, you've got a question, haven't you?
Well, no, on the press conference, I was interested. Well, there's two parts to it. I was interested in, I don't know who it was, but obviously somebody asked him about Lacazette being unhappy at not featuring in the Everton game. Yes. And obviously that was mainly because of 2 injuries, and he probably would have featured. But he basically said, I think that he'd be surprised if any player was happy that they didn't feature in the game, rather than actually answer the specific question, which I assume the journalist was getting at, which is, what's the situation with Alexandre Lacazette, with the new signing arriving? And I think that's the other part of that question. I think it's quite interesting, because just cast your mind back to the beginning of the season, when Alexandre Lacazette had been starting and then didn't start against Liverpool. And when Wenger was asked why, he said, well, he's new to the league and it's a very big game, so I didn't want to risk him in the big game because he's not used to playing those big games in the Premier League. So on that basis, Aubameyang won't play against Tottenham, I assume.
Go on.
Sorry, I was just going to say on that, because I found that subject fascinating as well, because before the Everton match, someone said to Arsene, said, are you going to have a word with Lacazette? Because it was quite clear he probably wasn't going to play unless he was going to play 2 up front or change the formation or play one of them wide. He said, why would I want to speak to him? Why do I have to have a word with him? He knows he's signed for a big club, a competitive club, just like me. And if you don't do well, then you won't get in the team, essentially.
But it is a strong message, though, because quite clearly Aubameyang, publicly everybody said Aubameyang wasn't 100% fit. Yeah. So he's playing a player who isn't 100% fit over a player who is 100% fit, which is a very strong message. And you would understand if you were Alexandre Lacazette being pretty annoyed about that, to be honest.
I do want to ask a question surrounding that. Is do you think there's any weight in the suggestion that Lacazette's not really Wenger's first choice? He wasn't his first choice. He wanted Aubameyang in the summer. He reluctantly went for Lacazette after many years of differing and umming and ahhing about him. And it's a case of, well, Aubameyang's here now, and you're just going to have to suck it and see, sort of thing. I mean, do you get that sense, Dave, Nick, Doug?
Let Doug hasn't said anything yet.
Go on, Doug. Come on, Doug.
No, nothing yet. Yeah, that's a tough one right there. I believe it was on a Bergkamp Wonderland. Rafi Hannestein basically said that Lacazette was an option that they've been considering for a while, but not necessarily Wenger's first choice. So I think that Aubameyang was always kind of the number one target or a number one target, and Lacazette's kind of feeling the effects right now. Lacazette's a good player. He's embedded in the team. It's surprising that he's not getting a chance right now, but I mean, no player should be immune to being dropped because of bad form. So I just think we got to roll with Aubameyang right now. He's that shot in the arm. He's that shiny new toy that all Gooners want us to play with, and let's roll with him.
As I was sitting on the pod the other day on Sunday with James. I mean, he is going to play. He's going to win the Europa League for us. I mean, he's going to be playing every game. So
that's right.
He's got a lot of football to play, and there's a big shiny trophy at the end of it. He can help us win. So it's not like he's not going to play.
And I guess also it's a squad game. A lot of clubs would envy the sort of the four up front that we've got to choose from. As you said, I mean, there's many games. I mean, if we get all the way to Europa League final, that's 9 games. If we get to we've got 12 games in the league and a game in the League Cup. So we've got 22 games max. If we don't get any further in the Europa League, I think his chances of getting to the World Cup squad for France will be severely hampered. Unless Aubameyang has a terrible downturn in form or gets injured, I don't see him.
Well, there's the irony. Yeah. There's the irony, isn't it? Olivier Giroud's left to get game time so he can get in the World Cup squad because he wasn't getting game time with Lacazette playing ahead of him, and now it's the shoes on the other foot, really.
Indeed.
Yeah, although it'd be interesting to see how many games Giroud gets at Chelsea. He didn't get picked the other night, did he?
No, but he came on, didn't he? Yeah, it will be interesting. Yeah. So, Doug. Also in the press of Wenger was asked about Mkhitaryan sort of like helping the strikers, staying behind after training's finished and helping the strikers. That really does look good on him, and he obviously wants to integrate well with the team. But what other respects do you see that being a benefit to us?
I don't know. Just back to Mkhitaryan, he is just the prototypical Arsenal signing. Like, say what you will about Arsene, his philosophy, what Arsenal has come to embody. He's a pure Arsenal player. The way he connects with others, the interplay. And I really want to see him thrive on that right-hand side. I don't want to switch him over to the left. Him and Bellerin connected so well against Everton. I believe they had the highest passing combination of anyone. It was Bellerin to Mkhitaryan 17 times. He just has this acute awareness of space. He can read a defense. He can get in these little pockets. I didn't hear the press conference. I don't know how well he's embedded into the team, but if he is working with the strikers, putting in extra work like that, that's a beautiful thing. And I really, if I had to rate him or Aubameyang, like who I'm more excited about Mkhitaryan just because of what he can add to the team dynamic. He's just a prototypical Arsenal player, and I think he's going to become a fan favorite.
Dave, and yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I just think, from what I gather from speaking to people in and around the club, he just literally is walking around with a beaming smile on his face the whole time. He's just so relieved to be out of Old Trafford and at Arsenal, playing with the freedom he knows he's going to be able to play with, which he wasn't allowed to do at Man United. I just think he's just going to be given license to express himself. Wenger has many faults in my mind, but that isn't one of them. He will let attacking players express themselves, and I think we're going to see the best of Mkhitaryan because of it. And of course, obviously the dynamic he already has with Aubameyang's only going to help us further. And I think he'll help. He'll help younger players like Iwobi and Reece Nelson as well with his attitude to the club and to training. I just think everything about it's positive, and I think the assists and goals are going to start coming in the next few games even more so. I mean, he's already got 3 assists in one game, for crying out loud. If he starts adding a few goals to that, which we know he's capable of, it really is, as Doug says, it's going to be so exciting. Really.
Now, Dave, today I asked a question regarding the best way of playing Tottenham, and you playfully said, score more goals than them. So, without using that as the sort of the thread to this conversation, how would you set up if you're in Wenger's position? How would you set up for Saturday's game?
Yeah, I mean, I do understand. I've seen a lot of conversation on Twitter about this. I mean, the one thing you would say, everyone's bullish and everyone's positive, which is great. but there seems to be almost a divide in the camp as to whether we should stick with back to the 4-2-3-1, which we're so comfortable with, which works so well against Everton. And I personally would, but I equally have seen a lot of people saying, no, he's got to stick on Nenny in there. He's got to play 3 at the back. They're too good going forward. We're not good enough defensively, particularly away from home. And I see both arguments. My comment to you, whilst it may seem flippant, is actually what I believe. I don't believe whether we set up with 4 or 3, we're going to suddenly become miraculously, defensively sound. I think Tottenham will score goals against us. So I think, let's just go out to beat the hell out of them by scoring more. And I genuinely believe that. And as I said in my blog on Monday, I personally, the only change I'd really make is probably I would lose Iwobi and bring Jack into the side. And I'd play Jack either side of Ozil with Mkhitaryan. And many people wouldn't agree with that, but I think we can do that quite easily. The alternative is to put Jack in with Xhaka and play Ramsey on the right and Mkhitaryan on the left. I'd be happy with either. I think one of those will be in the 3. That's what I hope to see happening. Whether it will happen, I don't know. But I personally would go for the 4-2-3-1 and just try and beat them at their own game. Because we got better, we got good players now. So
okay, we'll come back to that, Dave. Nick, Wenger said in response to that question, he said the best way to defend is to have the ball and to take the game to the other opponent. And when we don't have the ball, we defend as a team. Now he wasn't really giving away too much as to how he'll set up on Saturday. But I mean, what did you kind of glean from that statement? Do you think he's going to go? Do you think he's going to go ahead? He's going to try something different from our away form has been abysmal.
Yeah, and it's a game we have to win. So I'd like Dave said, I'd like to see Jack playing. He tried in the distant past to play Ramsey and Jack together. It hasn't, as I recall, been too successful for him. I don't think it's something he's particularly fond of. So I'm a bit worried he might not play them both. And the way that Ramsey likes to get forward as well as Jack, it presents a sort of a problem in his mind there, I think. So,
which is why I'd play one of them in the 3.
He's been repeating this mantra recently when he's been trying to defend the away record. He says, I don't see any difference between playing home games or away games. I set the team up exactly the same. I tell the guys to play exactly the same, whether we're home or away. Now, whether you set up the team differently to play against Tottenham home or away is another subject. He really wasn't giving anything away. He's just got this thing about Iwobi, doesn't he? He just keeps picking him. And, I'd like to see a way, like Dave said, that to get Jack in there and possibly have Iwobi on the bench. You can offer something coming on as a sub, actually.
I guess if he's saying that, the best way to defend is to have the ball, then you want guys that are technically secure. On the ball, and that means.
Sorry to sort of jump back in again.
Go on.
He was also saying one of the reasons he got Aubameyang and was so pleased to get him and Mkhitaryan was that, if you're an attacking team, you have to score goals, because otherwise then you're in really trouble. Isn't it? You're really in trouble, and he's trying to set up the team to be even more attacking than it has been earlier in the season, and to dominate teams like we did against Everton and in the Palace match before it. So you have to have the ball and to defend in his eyes, and he's probably right with the players we've got.
Doug, now that's all well and good to have the ball and whatnot, but it really hasn't worked very well in our recent games. The last 2 away games, we've seen defeats after going 1-0 ahead. Would you want Wenger to sort of set up a little differently? I mean, or do you believe in his philosophy of, the guy that has the ball is more likely to win the game?
I mean, it says a lot about us not signing a true DM over the years. The fact that you'd rather have a ball-playing mid, someone that kind of controls tempo, an Arteta, Cazorla type. I mean, the way I set up, and we can't just go out and play our game on the road. We've shown that the distance between defense and midfield just becomes too large, and teams hit us on the break. So I think we have to set up differently on the road. I'm not sure if you want me to go in detail now.
Go ahead.
I go back 3. I go back 3 against Tottenham for sure. We saw the template. We saw the template for success against them in November when we played them. The big question mark there, obviously, is left wing back. You start Kolasinac there, even though he's badly out of form, and just He looks like he's carrying a knock. The reason I do start Kolasinac there is because he was such a good aerial outlet for us. It was always an out ball along the left-hand side. And to win against Tottenham, we need to drive them back in wide areas. We got to push them back. We have to control that space. Make those center mids, make those strong, robust center mids that they have come out, defend wide areas, and that'll let things breathe in the middle for us with the likes of Ramsey, Xhaka, Ozil, Mkhitaryan getting into those creative spaces. So I think we got to go back three, push them back on the outside, and that'll also, I think, back three, if we can be selective and kind of sitting back, I think we'll be able to hit them on the counterattack a little bit easier too. Aubameyang, it would take one or two just really nice curled runs in behind. Release him, get him behind that defense that wants to push up. So I think we go back three.
So then you have got to make a decision between Jack and Ramsey.
Yeah, exactly.
And who would you go with?
I go Ramsey, Xhaka in the middle. I just think with that one less attacker, because the back four gives you an extra attacker, but the back three, you got to start the extra defender, obviously. But with that one less attacker, I have Ramsey for those third man runs, and if we can control wide areas, that just opens up space for him in the middle too. So Ramsey over Wilshere.
The other side of the coin is how the Tottenham set up. Now they've been setting up with a back four, playing 4-2-3-1 essentially,
yep.
And then when they had the ball, they've actually gone to a back three with the width provided by Son on the left and Trippier on the right, and they really pushed them up high to spread the play, to spread the opposition. Now, if we're playing Kolasinac on the left, as you said, he's been out of form, he's been out of nick, he's not completely 100%. I think the onus will be on Mkhitaryan to really help that left-hand side and be diligent. I mean, we saw it last week against Everton. He really worked back well. I think he was up against Mangala. He tracked back.
He was more on the right though, wasn't he? Last week?
Yeah. He was on the right. He I think he swapped. There were certain times in the games he actually swapped from left to right. But yeah, on the right, he helped out with Bellerin with Mangala. But whichever way, whoever plays on that left-hand side will definitely have to check back and help Kolasinac in the defensive phase, because Tottenham really do like to use Trippier on the right and then get the triangles in with Eriksen and Kane. But
if we play as Doug suggests and play with a back three, and then Mkhitaryan and Ozil will really be sort of 2 10s behind the striker, that they're not going to be, they're not going to be working the flanks back, are they, in that formation?
Yeah, the good thing on that side.
Another reason why I think we should go 4-2-3-1 and have solid.
The good thing on that side is we do have Monreal covering Kolasinac, and Ozil has been dropping a little deeper to kind of initiate play, so maybe he'll be there. We know he can position himself correctly, Ozil. Not necessarily robust, strong in the challenge, strong in the tackle, but he can cover his defensive responsibilities and his defensive distances. So I'm worried about that side. I'm worried about left wing back, but not that.
It depends also whether, when you see a player give an interview after a game, whether it's just purely off their own back or whether it's sanctioned by the club, because there was quite a lot made of this Bellerin interview after the Everton game about how much more comfortable the whole squad is playing with a back four, how much more comfortable he is playing at right back than right wing back. You sort of think, well, would the club have sanctioned, that was a really big spread. It was in most of the papers. Would the club have wanted him to say that if they weren't considering staying? I don't know. That also made me think that we might stick with the back four. Because of how vocal he was.
The thing is, if you stick with a back four, do you go with 2 in the middle, as in just the pivot of Xhaka and Ramsey, or do you go 3? Liverpool went 3 in the middle, and they asked a lot of their 3 central midfielders to actually cover a lot of space. Or do if we go 2 in the middle, I don't know. You're asking a lot of Xhaka to actually cover a lot of space. With Ramsey doing, the sort of like doing this bit where he goes forward and kind of pushes the defence back. I mean, do you feel comfortable?
The alternative is to do what he was doing a few games before that, which is obviously have El Neni just play 4-1-4-1 and have El Neni just sat there, and you'll have Mkhitaryan on the left, Ozil on the right with Xhaka and Ramsey, or Xhaka and Wilshere with just Aubameyang.
And I have a little feeling that he might just play in El Neni at the back, at the base.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I want him to play Wilshere, kind of like what you said, Dave. Play Wilshere on the left. He can always tuck in. He can always come back and kind of make a midfield three, and then
that's why I like either
drift out
Ramsey or Wilshere in that three. That's why I like it that way. So.
Yeah, and I don't think this is a game for inverted wing options either. So left-footed Wilshere, put him on the left, Mkhitaryan on the right. Wilshere can tuck in, but we don't want to be coming inside on our strong foot into the heart of that defense because they control central areas. Tottenham's so strong in the middle. So, and I think Wilshere's been choosing his spots so well this year, just being able to read the game. So I think he's not going to get lost up front. I think he's going to track back defensively. I think Wilshere's just that perfect option on the left if we go four in the back.
Yeah, I think Jack, he said it in an interview earlier that one of the things he really learned from playing on loan at Bournemouth is how to defend. It's made him a much, more complete player because when you're playing for Bournemouth, you do have to defend more than when you're playing for the Arsenal. And he's got all that in his armoury now. He's really, really impressed me how he's come on this season and bided his time, got his fitness back and worked his way up. The thing when I was coming away from Arsenal and Tottenham today thinking about potential lineups was that I don't know if it is sort of, it's just the feeling you get from Martin in these big games when we have to win. He always makes sort of surprising selections. I always look at the team sheets and think, why the hell, what's he done here? Well, this isn't our strongest team. He's not our best player. I mean, without pointing fingers or naming names, he always seems to pick the team you don't expect or not necessarily our strongest team.
And most of the big games, Nick, this season, that has been Iwobi, hasn't it? That has been a surprise selection. And in the past, it's been Danny Welbeck, who is fit.
Yeah.
Who he was mentioning quite strongly today, and I think, oh my God, he's going to play Welbeck. There's his surprise card.
I don't know, Dave. Is Danny Welbeck the worst? Oh, sorry.
No. You see, on Sunday, when Woz and I were on with James, Woz was suggesting he could easily play Danny Welbeck ahead of Iwobi on the left if he goes 4-2-3-1, which he's done before against Tottenham. And what you will get there is a phenomenal work rate.
Yes.
But what would worry me is that, throwing Welbeck in when he's only just back from injury is, well, we know from the past it's a recipe for disaster. Yeah. Well, he might score a winner in the 89th minute, of course. That's the alternative.
Off his neck.
Danny Welbeck's not the craziest shout. He is not the craziest shout in this game because he plays well in big games. Just look at him in the FA Cup final.
Oh yeah.
He defined him on that wing, just like kind of at Man U when he was doing that defensive responsibility, taking away their best man. So define him in a left wing role, let him cover that side, and we can run channels too. Yeah. So if we want to stretch Tottenham, we'll get him in the channels, run him like the gazelle that he is. He may not be healthy, but it's not the craziest shout.
In conclusion, none of us have got a clue.
No.
Actually, everyone was saying, it's almost like none of us know what's going to happen.
I have to say, I'm not a big fan of Danny Welbeck. I love him as a person. I'm not a big fan of him, but he did have a good game at Tottenham, running those channels when we drew. I think it was, the game where Ramsey did the back flick into the goal.
Yeah.
Season before last, I think he had a good game that season, that year at White Hart Lane. So
he set up a goal for Ozil too.
Yeah.
Deflected cross. He took his man on the byline on the right, crossed and Ozil finished.
Yeah. So although I'm not an advocate of playing Danny, I do see some of the benefits. Okay, so key battlegrounds are you guys have said is basically the centre of midfield. Now Tottenham probably going to have Alderweireld back, I believe, which makes makes them a lot stronger. Do you think Wanyama's going to be? I mean, he came on against Liverpool, Nick. Chances are he'll probably play on Saturday with Dembele. They're a very strong combination, those two, aren't they?
Yeah, I don't know. I think Wanyama, I think he's scored his goal for the season now. He's not a player that worries me in any shape or form. I don't think even Tottenham fans would be delighted if he's playing. I think he's a bit of a sort of a cult sort of figure for them really. He's not a brilliant player.
I don't watch Tottenham, but surely they wouldn't play Dyer, Wanyama and Dembele.
No, it would be two of the three, surely.
So you think they dropped? I didn't think he ever dropped Dyer, does he?
No, but again, Dyer doesn't exactly excite me as a player. It wouldn't worry me if he played.
What I got my eyes on is who starts at center back. Does Alderweireld get a start there?
Mm-hmm.
Aurier started yesterday for him, so I think that's Trippier that's going to play against us then because he rotates his fullbacks. And then in the middle of the pitch, when I was analyzing this game, I thought they would be better with Wanyama and Dembele, but Wanyama started yesterday. He's coming off an injury, so I think it's definitely Dyer, Dembele in the middle. And the reason I know this, or I think this, is because my brother's a massive Tottenham fan. We don't talk for weeks after North London derbies, unless it's a draw, that is. And he filled me in big time. He's just like, he does not rotate, or he rotates his fullbacks. They barely ever play back-to-back games. And he wanted to see Wanyama in the middle just because of that lateral agility, being able to boss the game a little bit. But he's also very not secure on the ball, so he's prone to be pressed, and he's prone to a big error. So I think it's going to be Dyer Dembele in the middle.
I think that's wise words. I think that's probably a good call.
Yeah, indeed. My only other concern really is how we defend their front three, and obviously diving comes into play. But Harry Kane's been tearing it up, and I don't know about you guys, but Mustafi doesn't convince me as a centre half. He just doesn't convince me. I feel a bit more secure of him in the 3, but in a 2, he just doesn't come across as a natural centre back for me. I always think there's a ricket in him, waiting to happen, and I'm worried that if they get him 1-on-1, whether it's Son or whether it's Ali or Kane, he might come apart. I don't know if you guys. I don't know what you guys think. I mean, would you?
I don't think him and Koscielny is the partnership for next season, but I can't see anything that makes me more confident than those two right now.
No. Yeah, I'm afraid I agree. I agree with you, Giles, as well. That there's accidents waiting to happen all over that central defence, but I think they're the best we've got to go with tomorrow. And just to pose the question is, if Tottenham win this match, where does that leave us then? I wrote off top 4 long ago, even before the sort of season started, but there's just been a few sort of signs recently that we could challenge for top 4 again. But to do that, have to win this North London derby. And
these next,
Tottenham start the game as favourites, which doesn't mean a lot necessarily in a match like this, but they will start the game as favourites for quite obvious reasons.
Yeah, these next 2 league matches are absolutely essential, aren't they? Because we have Tottenham and then City. Things change fast in the Premier League, too. It seems like just a week ago, Gooner's thought that we should be heavily prioritizing Europa, putting all our eggs in that basket. All teams look like they have weaknesses now, really, other than City. You have United, they're outperforming their XG massively. You have Chelsea, 2 wins in the last 10. Liverpool have their defensive frailties, and Tottenham struggle to break down packed defenses. So a lot is going to tell us of how we should attack the league season based on these next 2 games.
This is about the time we normally would start a run. Yeah, late February, early March. Having gone out of most competitions, then we'll start our run. So yeah, the next few weeks are going to be interesting.
Indeed, that's a good point, Doug. Very good point. Okay. So predictions then. Let's just wrap it up now. Let's go to predictions. Let's go to Nick. Nick, your prediction for Saturday?
2-1. 2-1 Arsenal.
Dave.
It's going to be an absolute thriller. I think 4-3 to Arsenal.
And Doug.
The last time we played a thriller. Last time we played Tottenham at Wembley, it was 93. Tony Adams winner. It was 1-0. So I say 1-0 Arsenal with a Koscielny winner.
Donkey won the derby. Remember that one?
Donkey won the derby, indeed. Yeah.
Is this? Are we going for our 10th straight win at Wembley? Is that
we are?
Or 9 or 10?
10 straight. Yeah, apparently so. But without away form, I don't know.
How many tickets have we been given for this?
3,000.
It's pathetic, isn't it?
Yeah.
That really is.
What is the capacity for their league games in, Nick? For Tottenham's league games?
Honestly, I don't know. But I think
it's
85, is it something? They've had over 80, haven't they? I think.
Oh yeah, because the last game, the Man United game, they broke a record, did it, or nearly broke a record for attendance or something in a Tottenham game, and they were expecting that North London derby would probably exceed that, and they're only giving us 3,000 tickets. So.
It's just poor.
Yeah. Not even 10% of the gate. All right, cool.
What's your prediction then, Giles?
My prediction is 2-2 draw.
Not good enough.
Yeah, well, our away form's not been good enough. It doesn't really fill me with much.
I'm not saying your prediction isn't good enough. I'm saying that result would not be good enough.
No, but as Doug has said, look, apart from Man City, none of the others have actually staked a claim to actually, be dead certs for a top 4. Yeah,
but it's momentum and confidence, isn't it? On the back of that 5-1 with the 2 new signings, everyone's in a great mood. It could be deflated so very, very badly this weekend, or we could be even more ebullient and confident. It's that big a game. It's not just big because it's top 4. It's big because it's North London derby. It's big because it's the bitterest rivals, and it's just a pivotal time in the season. It's huge.
I think Wenger said it's a would like to win game.
Oh, shut up, Arsene.
But I mean, as long as we don't lose and then we go into the Man City game, at home, you fancy your chances. We've only lost once at home.
We've got another Wembley fixture. Got another Wembley fixture before that.
Have we? Oh, of course, yeah.
Blimey, Riley.
Jeez. I don't know what's up with me. All right, I think at that point I'm going to wrap it up there because I'm running on fumes now. I want to thank all my esteemed colleagues for coming on tonight. Nick, thank you very much, sir, again.
Thanks, guys. Sorry I dropped out a bit early. I don't know what happened there.
No worries. Also want to thank Doug from over the pond. Thank you very much, Doug.
Oh, thanks for having me again. Really enjoyed this.
Good stuff. And also Dave. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Thanks to everyone.
All right.
And good night.
And you can catch us on all the channels, all the platforms. Please rate, subscribe, like, tweet, retweet, comment, feedback. Catch us again after North London Derby. I think we're coming on Sunday. Coming back on Sunday to review the North London Derby. I've been your host, Giles. It's been a good round of podcast. Thank you. Good night. And up your Arsenal.
Forever in our shadow.
This episode of the Gooner Ramble is sponsored by the new sporting betting app called Bookie. That's BOOKEE. Sign up using the promo code podcast. Deposit and bet £10 in multiple bets for a free £10 bet. Please bet responsibly.